Welcome to Yoga for First Responders on Air, where we break down yoga, neuroscience, resilience, and public safety in a manner that's authentic, educational, and most importantly, entertaining and lighthearted. I'm YFFR's founder, Olivia Mead. As a yoga instructor and neuroscience enthusiast, I'm passionate about supporting first responders and anyone looking to improve their overall human performance. Each week, we'll dive into a new topic and often bring on expert guests to share their insights and experiences. But we'll also keep it real and share our own stories and struggles along the way. So whether you're a first responder or seeking to master the science of mental and physical resilience, this podcast is your ultimate guide to triumph over life's challenges with unbreakable strength and unwavering fortitude. By pressing play, your training has begun. Buckle up, because today we're going to dive in to post-traumatic stress. Now, let me start by addressing the first responders who are listening. You've received extensive training in short-term tactical skills designed for immediate survivability, and rightfully so. These skills save lives, including your own. But here's the truth. If you're home on disability or forced into early retirement, unable to use those skills in the field, how much are those tactical skills really helping you? Because my goal is to keep you operating at your highest potential, on duty and off, so you can keep doing the job you love without sacrificing your health, your family, or your future. So let's talk about PTS or PTSD, how it happens and how it works. So you may have noticed that I typically put the D of PTSD in parentheses or quotes, or I leave it out completely and just say post-traumatic stress. That's because the D stands for disorder, and that label can carry a heavy, often negative connotation. When someone hears disorder, it can feel like something is broken or malfunctioning. But in reality, what we call PTSD is actually the nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is to try to make sense of a traumatic event, to protect you and begin the process of healing. But with the right knowledge and tools, we can support that nervous system process. We can move beyond just surviving a trauma, and we can move into what's known as post-traumatic growth. So, what are some common symptoms of post-traumatic stress? Well, let's talk about the psychological symptoms: hyperarousal, depression, anxiety, intrusive thoughts and nightmares, sleep disorders, negative cognition, not trusting people. That's kind of like always moving into a situation with the worst case scenario. Negative feedback and the hypervigilance loop. This means that your intrusive thoughts are leading to more hypervigilance. Your hypervigilance is leading to negative cognition, and it just continues in a cycle. You may find yourself avoiding social situations, avoiding the healing tools that are put out there for you. Maybe it's therapy or anything else. You're kind of not into doing that. Irritability, anger, difficulty feeling compassion. So compassion fatigue. Physical symptoms may include backache, headache, digestive issues, high blood pressure, and constant illness. And those are directly linked to the continuous activation of the stress response, which eventually turns into an injury or post-traumatic stress. Now, you don't have to be experiencing all of these or all of these at one time, but any handful of these. And say you do start noticing these symptoms that constitute post-traumatic stress, but you start to doubt yourself. You think, well, I've never been involved in a major critical incident, so this can't be PTSD. Well, it's important to know that PTS can develop in two main ways, and only one of them involves a single traumatic event. So let's talk about that. First is the acute traumatic event. This is what most people picture when they think of PTSD. It could be a physical, emotional, or mental trauma. Any situation where your nervous system perceives that survival is at stake. It does not necessarily mean something physically happened. It might even be witnessing someone else's trauma. And in these cases, the nervous system knows something major just happened and immediately starts trying to reorganize and reconcile it and process it. Again, with proper support, you can help your nervous system reconfigure all the fallen pieces that happened when a trauma occurs and reconfigure it most effectively. That's when we see post traumatic growth coming out stronger, wiser, and more resilient in spite of the trauma that you just witnessed. Then there's cumulative stress. This is the sneaky one. And it's far more common in public safety that there's not just one big bad event that tips you over the edge. Instead, it's a buildup of multiple stressors where the nervous system is continually activated without the chance to regulate and recover. And over time, this hypervigilant state becomes your new normal, your new baseline. And you may not even realize that you're in dysregulation because everyone around you, your colleagues, your peers, are in that same state of dysregulation. But you might start to see signs show up in yourself and those around you of performance decreasing, emotional volatility, feeling uncomfortable in your own body and mind and in your own skin. But you're not associating any of these symptoms with post traumatic stress because there was no obvious incident. And yet, this form of post traumatic stress can be just as serious, if not worse. So, here's what's important to understand: post traumatic stress is a normal reaction to abnormal circumstances. It is your system's attempt to regulate and make sense of what has happened. If symptoms then persist beyond 6 to 8 weeks, that's when we can consider it a more serious injury that likely needs medical and therapeutic support. Within that 6 to 8 week time frame is pretty typical of the nervous system reconciling something difficult. So I want you to think of it like a bruise. It may start to look worse before it heals, right? But you know what happens. You're trusting the process. You know, this is what my body does to heal, even though it looks pretty gnarly. However, if the pain persists beyond that normal healing, you know something needs deeper attention and you will probably go see a doctor. Okay, so PTS can also be understood this way. It occurs when your internal and external resources aren't enough to meet the perceived threat. You might notice reactions in yourself that don't match the current situation. For example, hiding during fireworks, even though you know you are technically safe. Post traumatic stress can also be described as the opposite of mindfulness. Sometimes in YFFR, we refer to mindfulness as alert presence because I think that's a better definition for it. But mindfulness or alert presence can be defined as paying attention on purpose in the present moment that's critical without judgment. The ability to do this doesn't just happen. Like, I love it when people say, try to be more mindful, okay? Because you must train yourself and your brain to function and perform with mindfulness. PTS is the opposite of mindfulness because it pulls your mind and nervous system into another time and place, stuck in the trauma loop and not connected to the present moment whatsoever, which is why mindfulness training has been so successful in healing veterans with post traumatic stress because it forces the nervous system and brain back into the present moment, which would be assumably safe. Okay, so then there's secondary traumatic stress. Secondary traumatic stress is similar to PTS, especially with the symptomology, but in that case, the trauma did not happen to you. You are witness of it. Those that are most susceptible to experiencing the same symptoms of PTS in secondary traumatic stress are empathetic people. And do you know who is most drawn to public service and safety? Empathetic people. Nervous system dysregulation, cumulative stress, and acute stress can literally change your brain, how it works, and how you make decisions. But the good news is your brain also has the ability to change for the better, and you have the power to do that. High stress and activation may cause the creation of different neural pathways, but so does yoga and mindfulness training. So, how come with all the books, the speakers, and the trainings on PTSD and resilience, nothing is actually working? The statistics are not going down. Well, I've identified three reasons for that. And one is that the very thing that has shown to actually heal and prevent post traumatic stress is constantly and commonly stigmatized. Yoga and mindfulness, case in point. Google yoga, you'll see what I mean. Commercialized yoga has isolated first responders from its authentic purpose and benefit. And number two is our common answer to post traumatic stress is exclusively focused on reactive models. So, can someone heal from PTSD? Yes, absolutely. With concentrated effort and motivation, healing is possible. Yet, here's the challenge: PTS symptoms themselves often block the very energy and clarity required to heal, let alone transform that pain into growth. But it can be done, and I've seen it done. But more often, I've seen individuals who begin to use their diagnosis of post traumatic stress as their identity, an identity that becomes an excuse not to heal, because healing would mean letting go of your identity, and that can feel threatening. And this creates a downward spiral, leading to the staggering statistics we all know too well: the alcoholism, chronic illness, suicide. Or it swings the other direction into what we call trauma performative behavior, where trauma is showcased, not to process it, but to seek validation. That path is much harder to come back from. So, what if we front loaded high stress professionals with the tools they need before PTS ever sets in? What if we train them not just to survive the trauma that they're inevitably going to see, but to use it as fuel for growth, resilience, and grit? Speaking of grit, speaking of resilience, lastly, what is not working is the constant misunderstanding, misuse, and misrepresentation of those concepts, those words, resilience and grit. They're only thrown out as concepts and not tactical training. The solution isn't asking someone to simply have mental toughness. There must be training for it and how to do it, how to keep it and keep improving it. And this is what we define as grit. We think that grit stands for grounding, finding center in high stress moments, regulation, how to reset your nervous system on demand, integration, turning stress into strength, and training, building lasting mental fitness with consistency. So, how do you use this all to train resilience? Well, first, you have to know that resilience is not bouncing back. Resilience doesn't happen because you've just seen a lot of shit. To train resilience, you must train proactively, knowing that you need to front load this. Train to go beyond bouncing back, knowing that there is post traumatic growth that is possible, that you can become better because of the shit you've seen, and proper recovery because you are only as resilient as your ability to recover. So let's put this into practice. In 2020 and 2022, YFFR's training protocol went under two different clinical research studies. The first was an online 6-week program, and the second was a 16-class in-person training. In the 6-week online pilot study course, results showed that participants reported significantly higher stress enhancing mindsets compared to baseline. Now, a stress enhancing mindset has shown to increase the neurosteroid DHEA. An increase in DHEA compared to baseline has shown to create post traumatic growth as opposed to post traumatic stress. So, the 6-week online course increased stress enhancing DHEA, which has shown to create post traumatic growth versus post traumatic stress. So, that was the pilot study that then gave us the ability to do the 16 in-person class program. So in conjunction with University of New South Wales, we did 16 classes, including online support. So they had an app that they could use during the program and for the following year. We worked with 4 fire departments and 1 law enforcement agency. So, in summary, the intervention group, those who received the YFFR protocol, had a significant drop in post traumatic stress symptoms compared to the control group, the ones who didn't receive the protocol. And that was during the program. Yet, the symptoms began to creep up again 3 months after the program ended, except those who continued to practice all 3 elements of YFFR protocol, breath work, physical practice, and the mindfulness part, at least once per week, had the most significant and consistent decrease in PTSD symptoms even 3 months after the completion of the program. But the most important data is when the groups were divided into individuals that had symptomology that would classify them right then and there as diagnosable with PTSD, and then those who had the first indication of symptoms for PTSD that could be diagnosed in the future. The group that showed the early signs saw the most significant decrease in symptoms that withheld after 3 months. This indicates that the YFFR protocol is an evidence-based training for the prevention of PTSD. Those were just the preliminary findings. I am going to read you directly from the study, just one little piece. All right, this says results. At post-intervention, the intervention group had significantly reduced PTSD symptoms compared to the control group. The intervention group had significant improvements in cognitive reappraisal and resilience at post-intervention compared to the control group, which were sustained at 3 months. In conclusion, this workplace-delivered intervention shows potential in preventing the development of PTSD in first responders. This is the first study to provide evidence for a tactical mind-body resilience training program in reducing symptoms of PTSD in the short term, as well as for improving adaptive strategies in active duty first responders. Sustained improvements in PTSD symptoms for individuals with subthreshold PTSD show further potential for this training as a preventative intervention in reducing the future risk of PTSD among first responders. To me, that's a mic drop, okay? That's what keeps me motivated. The bottom line, guys, is that YFFR training protocol is a proven tool for PTSD prevention, regardless of in-person or online. Now, I want to address the elephant that's in your AirPod. Budget, money, funding, whatever you want to call it, money, okay? Whether you're here or listening to this on behalf of your agency or for yourself, I totally get that that is a hurdle. And one of the biggest obstacles to initiating resilience training, personally or professionally, is not a lack of recognition for its performance, it's budget. We hear it all the time from command staff across the country. Wellness is a priority, but when it comes down to the budget line, there's just no room for it. What about grant applications? Well, they can be a bureaucratic nightmare requiring time, staff, and resources that most agencies don't have. And even when funding becomes technically available, navigating the process can feel like climbing uphill. The reality is this, guys. Agencies, I know if you're listening and you, especially if you're in the commanding position in an agency, I know you want to provide effective tools for stress management, resilience, and long-term sustainability. Why wouldn't you? But I also know that you are often left scrambling for the dollars to make it happen. So here's the truth, guys, and we've heard this several times in different ways, but those wellness dollars that everyone's fighting for, it often comes down to a choice between our program, Yoga for First Responders or similar, or an ice machine. No shit, really. One agency directly told us that. Another chief told me leadership is more open than ever to thinking outside the box. And I said, okay, open enough to put money behind it? He said, that I don't know. Guys, the longevity of our first responders deserves better. I really believe that investing in evidence based, job specific resilience training isn't just a nice to have. It can't be just a nice to have. It has to be made essential, essential for operational readiness, essential for mental well being, essential for retention and long term career health. So I think it's time to rethink how folks prioritize funding for their entire agency, training and resilience included. And that's why I don't want to just talk about it and say, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I decided to formulate a solution that is going to help both you as an individual, or if you represent an agency, your entire agency. So I want to talk to you about YFFR University for Life. YFFR University is our online learning platform, and it's designed specifically for the unique needs of first responders, as is our entire organization and protocol. So, whether you are currently on the job, transitioning out, or transitioning in, or completely retired, this is for you. So, what's inside this platform is a full on demand library of training videos. They have various lengths, intensities, and focuses, such as breath work, maybe tougher on the physical part, mindfulness, and more. And we have organized the content by profession. So there are sections that are best for law enforcement, fire service, dispatch, and even a dedicated section for retired responders. Because we believe resilience must be trained from recruitment throughout retirement. So you're also going to find in YFFR University full-on courses that are eligible for in-service training credit, neuroscience-backed curriculum, guest master classes, courses for families and spouses, and most importantly, the exact courses that underwent clinical research and showed real measurable results in reducing post-traumatic stress symptoms are available right there on the YFFRU platform. This means, guys, that the answer to preventing post traumatic stress, you heard it from the research study, is literally at your fingertips. We're adding new content all the time. And once you're in, it's yours for life. Now, I understand that recurring subscription costs, whether personal or professional, are difficult to commit to. Believe me, I hate when I get pinged on my bank account for a subscription that I forgot about and didn't budget or account for. So maybe, for example, you have the budget this year and you are like, yes, I want to commit to this, but I don't know if I'll have the budget next year. And any training that we've invested time and resources into risks being lost whenever the funding may run out. And so that's why we'll keep our subscription model. So if that's the best choice for you, great, that's there. But we're offering lifetime access to YFFR University at one cost, one time, no renewals, no continuous budget guesswork. Just permanent, unlimited access to job specific, research backed resilience training. I'm going to put the link in the show notes for YFFR University so you can check it out. Now, if you are listening to this and you are someone who has the ability to find something like this for your entire agency, when you click that link that's in the show notes, what will pop up, you'll see three options, and one is a red box. And you're going to click that because you're going to fill out a form to allow us to speak to you about your specific situation, the size of your agency, any budget constraints, so we can figure out how to get every single one of your personnel, those that come in, those that transition out with this platform. Okay. Now, if you're an individual listening to this, use code FIRST100. So FIRST 100. And we're going to give you YFFRU for life for only $100. So after the first 100 people take advantage of it, and I know that people already have, it's going to bump up to the next price level. And then after that, the next price back bracket, which will be the full price of YFFRU for life. But for right now, as of this recording, the first 100 people get it forever for only $100. So let's be real. $100 for lifetime access to job-specific, research-backed mental readiness training should be a no-brainer. I know you're spending 10 billion times more on wearables, on sending people to court, to conferences where people just talk about their story. Listen, I know some of those can be really effective. I'm not trying to shit on them. I'm just trying to say that cost is no longer an issue. We have made it no longer an issue. $100. And we're offering this to you because we want you to use this platform. We want your feedback about the platform. We want to keep adding more content that you want and need. And most importantly, this is how we stand by our motto, which is let no man's ghost return to say his training let him down. That quote is on the wall at the FDNY Training Center, and it should be a call to action for all of us. The truth is, not all training is created equal. There are plenty of wellness, resilience, and tactical yoga programs out there, but only one has the research to prove it works. Too often, yoga and mindfulness and public safety become the butt of jokes, and it's reduced to a dog and pony show or a check the box requirement. But what if what's been mocked and shrugged off is actually the thing that's going to save lives? So I'm asking you, imploring you to put an end to the performative approach. Stop the cycle of commercialized yoga and watered down resilience training. We can do better. We know how to do better. We have proof. So let's stop wasting time and let's go. Hey, before we go, I want to remind you that training your mental and physical health is incredibly important, especially for those working in high-stress jobs like first responders.
And if you're interested in learning more about yoga for first responders, visit yogaforfirstresponders.org for our on-demand training app, online course platform, in-person training, and more.
Like this podcast, subscribe, and give us a great review. We are so happy to have you part of the YFFR mission.